Yeah. Hi, everybody. Welcome to this month's Mentor Speaker Series. I am so excited to have Sophia D'Agostino here with us to talk about NDBIs. And she is coming to us from Utah State University, which, if you're not familiar with, you should get familiar with and definitely go visit because it is beautiful from the images I was searching before we chatted today. Welcome, Sophia.
Yes, thank you for having me, Jamie. Happy to be here.
I love it. Can you tell us, how did you get into NDBIs? Or maybe before that, what do you do at Utah State? What are you practicing? What research are you focused on?
Mhm. So, as you said, I'm in Utah State, Northern Utah. I'm an assistant professor in the special education and rehabilitation counseling department. And my position is focused on early childhood special ed, teaching and research. So I teach undergraduate courses to 5 early intervention educators, and my research focuses on the preschool classroom context, early childhood special education, preschool. So broadly, my research aims to improve preschool inclusion.
Nice.
And yeah, I'm currently researching the social validity and implementation of NDBI strategies in preschool classrooms that serve children with disabilities.
Is that local at the university, like a child development center, or is this within the education realm in the city? Like,
Yeah, good question. So I focus on community-based
okay,
preschool programs. So in Michigan, where I'm from, I focus on uh, pr- so early childhood special ed that was in public preschool classrooms, childcare, state-funded preschool programs, and then here in Utah, there isn't a state-funded preschool program, but they have early childhood special education, tuition-based preschool. There's Head Start here, like there's across the country, and many of those preschool classrooms are inclusive.
nice. And I
Mhm.
don't know if there are any NDBIs within Head Start. I had a supervisee who was involved with Head Start back in Vegas. He was senior VP, he still is. And we talked a lot about, as he was pursuing his BCBA, how do we get NDBIs into the Head Start arena? Or they had got a grant to do early Head Start.
Mhm.
And we never really, COVID hit at that time, so it never went anywhere. So I don't know if you're aware of any, I can't think off the top of my head, NDBIs in Head Start.
No, I'm not aware of, but some exploratory research that recently included a few teachers in Head Start programs. And so we asked them, this is a published paper, but we asked them to record themselves working with a child with a disability in their classroom who had a social communication goal or goals. And those Head Start teachers were using a lot of the common NDBI strategies already. So that's something that I'm finding and exploring is like what are teachers already
Nice.
using out of those common strategies, and then where to go next, like how do they fit into their curriculum and the classroom context and activities, what feels good to them, what socially valid out of those strategies, what do they want to learn more about, etc. So that's where I'm focusing right now.
Great. That's really interesting. And I always wonder, NDBI Head Start inclusion in those settings, public or private, like how do you get your foot in the door? Or how do you kind of build those bridges to get in there to do research?
Yeah, that's a good question. So
Secret for sure.
yeah, in Michigan, it's been easier for me because that's where I taught and that's where I worked. So I can talk about my background a little bit.
Yeah.
There. So building trust and rapport, it's a little bit easier in places where you spent more time. And then when you come to a new place, like I've been here, this is my 3rd year, it's just a lot of effort in, building rapport with them, providing resources, providing professional development, help in any way, spending time. And I have not focused on Head Start here. I focused on the community-based preschool programs that are in the local public school districts around me. So,
Yeah, so really building those relationships and
mhm,
getting that networking and just getting people to kind of be open to it. I'm always
mhm,
curious about when we think about NDBIs, those strategies, are there certain ones that are more predominant that we see because they're just natural happening within education settings, and other ones that might be more behavioral, they don't kind of track as easily, they're just as important, but they don't track as easily, or people aren't as comfortable with them. Do you
mhm.
have any, like, off of your research, like, I'm just curious now for myself, top strategies that you see or the ones that you said the educators were reporting they were more comfortable with?
Yeah, yeah. So the two studies that are most recently published were focused on that, is understanding that. So I hypothesized like exactly what you said, that all these teachers are probably going to be more comfortable and report use of and use, in the case where we actually videotape them, more of the strategies that you might identify as more developmental or based in, child psychology.
Yeah,
And that is true.
yeah,
Most of the, yes, they do are more comfortable with those strategies. They align really well with Division for Early Childhood recommended practices that they're taught to use, and general early childhood practices like that support developmentally appropriate practices from like NACE, National Association for the Education of Young Children, and then the more behavioral strategies that you might label as more behavioral. But the beautiful thing about NDBI is like we don't, they're combined. So I don't want to say that they are separate, but yes, that might stem more from the science of ABA. Those were the ones that we do see use less or to less quality, and the ones that we did actually videotape, and the ones that they're less comfortable with or wanting to learn more about, like communicative temptations and the quality of the direct teaching episodes.
really interesting. Are those articles open access, or can I just get a link? That's okay. Can I get a link so I can send people to the, like, where they can find if they want to read more?
Yeah, yeah, both of them are published in Journal of Early Intervention. So yes, I can definitely give you
Okay.
those. And
Link.
then if anybody wants them, they can find me on ResearchGate, and I can help them get
Ooh,
access to that.
nice. Can I link your, is it okay if I link
Mhm.
your
Yes.
link for ResearchGate? Okay, then they can directly find you that way.
Mhm.
Perfect. For those 2 articles if they want to read some more. That's
Yeah,
really exciting. And then you are very busy with this NDBI special interest group for ABAI, and I don't know if you wanted to talk about that at all.
sure. Yeah, and you're busy with that too now, thankfully. Thank you for coming on board with
You're
that.
welcome.
So we started the NDBI Special Interest Group through ABAI with a mission of disseminating what NDBIs are and hopefully promoting more implementation of NDBIs in the field of ABA. So with practitioners who were behavior analysts. And so that's why we decided, okay, we need to create this at ABAI. So we created it in 2020, kind of a slow start due to the pandemic, the conference being canceled that first year. And then, a hybrid, or no, it was all online in
Uh-huh.
2021. So yeah, slow start to the SIG. So it's not well known yet, but
Yes.
like I said, our mission is dissemination. So we created some resources and a website, listserv, and you're working on social media. So definitely want to plug those as places where you can stay updated on NDBI, get some access to some recommended free resources for practitioners, just to learn more in general.
Yes, I'm gonna definitely make sure I link those with your talk today. I put those links on there for the Facebook group and all the other social media sites, the website that you guys have. And
Awesome.
I'm just thinking, and it just went up my head here. I was just thinking about university programs. So I know you have spent some time thinking and planning and trying to think about how to integrate NDBIs within existing course sequences.
Mhm.
Looking at people that might be in the community here who are coming to NDBIs from a more traditional background,
Mhm.
which would be me. I've evolved immensely in the past 28 years of how I've got to NDBIs on my journey. But then we also might have people in the group that are coming to NDBIs because they're new and NDBIs are out.
Yeah.
And they have this wonderful opportunity to just start here and go. And I'm always curious about students, people coming from the traditional ABA kind of background or looking for BACB certification and coursework. Is there anywhere for them to go that would guide them to this is a program, Utah State, that has a researcher or a course sequence or some fieldwork placement option that would guide and really hone that NDBI skill set? Do you know of anything?
No, a resource to guide
Uh-huh.
students? No.
You could make
I
one.
know, I think it's kind of like, what programs, based on the professors that they have, kind of what the focus within, the requirements of verified course sequence, what it's going to be. So like California, you might find, programs that are going to have more NDBI components with where like the PRT was created, for example,
Mhm.
as opposed to maybe like in Michigan, like,
Yeah.
Western Michigan University, we have, a big connection with ABAI, so maybe less NDBI focused work. I don't know. This is their examples. This is not me putting labels on anything. So I don't think, to answer your question, a resource exists like that, but that would be cool.
I know. I'm wondering if we could include that on the SIG website,
Yeah.
university, where there are, like yourself or Anna at San
Yeah.
Diego, like
Yeah. Resource.
researchers, yeah, that are affiliated with the university. So if you were looking to do graduate school or a doctorate program,
Mhm.
master's doctorate program, that you could have a list of here's 10 researchers who are doing research at these affiliations.
Yeah.
That might
Cool.
be a good place to start versus if you were to go to, well, it's not on the BACB, or is it on ABAI? I know they've moved the verified course sequence, or somehow that's separated. Where would they go to find that information to look
Yeah.
for a verified course sequence university? That would be on ABAI, or no, it's on BACB. Oh,
I
crap.
don't know.
Somehow I probably moved something somewhere. But I'm going to put that on a list for the website for resources because I think people who might be interested in this might not know, like, hey, you can find a professor who could align your interest with their research
Yeah.
and have that as a really great contribution and keep disseminating them
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
Helps with the dissemination. That's our goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, write that down. That's
I'm
awesome.
going to write that down right now. And that might go back to a question, are there barriers to implementing NDBIs? One of the barriers I feel like I see is people just don't know about where to go and how to find them and how to implement them or to find that research. Like you had
Yeah.
mentioned, Journal of Early Intervention, right? You've published some. So
Mhm.
would a BCBA know to even look in that journal because it's not a JABA or a behavior analyst in practice. So
That's why we were like, okay, the NDBI SIG has to go through ABAI if we want to target this population of practitioners, behavior analysts that maybe aren't using NDBI and might be interested in it. Yeah, that's a really good point. So we did publish an article in behavior analysis and practice.
mhm,
Uh, so that's a place, to go that we want to start disseminating. But yes, I think that the first barrier that we are trying to work on, and I don't know, I mean, yeah, it's just the dissemination piece and just the knowledge and
yeah.
the attitudes piece. So the other article we wrote as an NDBI SIG in the Journal of Autism, focuses on like, okay, what are the misconceptions of NDBI? So that knowledge level, that attitudes level.
You want to share some of those? That's great. Misconception.
Yeah, yeah. So we think we talked about just a few. So the fact that NDBI is an ABA-based intervention practice and aligns with the 7 dimensions of ABA, is like first and foremost saying this isn't like, soft ABA. This
Yes.
is ABA practice based on the science of ABA. So
Number
that's the
one.
first, misconception. Thinking another one is this is NDBI is the same as NET, natural environment teaching. It's similar, but there are key differences. So we outline that a bit in the paper. And just talking about, again, kind of echoing this same thing the authors of the seminal NDBI paper by Schreibman et al. 2015 were saying that it brings together these two sciences. So misconceptions come from the fact that like, wait, this isn't, again, going back to like it is ABA based, but because it comes from the child development theories, that it can be seen as watered down. So we kind of talk about how there's that overlaps. You can visualize it as like a Venn diagram or like a cross between these two fields, but bringing together the strengths of both that we know can impact the outcomes for children we serve using these strategies. So those were the main kind of misconceptions that we talked about. And then like the fact that you said, like, where do people get their information in the field? From those specific journals, right? And then like if we're not publishing on those journals, or what information do behavior analysts trust more?
Yeah.
Mostly single case research. And so like if there's not a lot of single case research in NDBI, which there's a lot of group studies too, then it might not be as trustworthy in the
Mhm.
eyes of behavior analysts. So those are the things we discussed in that paper.
Is that one the Toward a Deeper Understanding?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll
Mhm.
put a link for that one too. Yeah, that's a great article. And I think you're right. I feel like one of the things that I see specific to ESDM, that's where I hang out the most. Oh, not a lot of literature. There's over 100 articles published and peer-reviewed articles. They just might not be single case, right? Subject
Exactly.
line. So somehow in our field, those are viewed as less valid or less meaningful. And
Right.
no, they're not. They're great. And then the same thing over here with the developmental side, it's a lot of group studies. So it's really interesting how these two different approaches kind of circulate and kind of come together, but then they go back again with how the research is supported and how the studies are done, which,
Right.
like you said, is more meaningful to some people or more valid to others.
Exactly.
It doesn't diminish the effectiveness, it just is perception
Mhm.
of that.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
thing to publish where and who. I'm always curious how people come into NDBIs. If they
Mhm.
come like me from traditional, just kind of morphing and evolving as things unfold and resources are available, or if
Mhm.
they just come into it because there are so many different models now available to
Mhm.
get started into an NDBI type of journey. That'd be a good survey question to put out on social media. How did you get into NDBIs or
Yeah,
what's your journey? I'm
it
gonna put
would.
that on. I'm curious. Yeah, I'm curious about that
Mhm.
survey. Very
It
good.
is fun to hear about that. And yeah, my journey, I don't know if you want
Yeah,
me to talk
please.
about.
How did you stumble upon this?
Yeah. So I was trained as a teacher. So my bachelor's degree in education is in elementary and early childhood education. So I went off and was a TK teacher. So like young fives, pre-kindergarten teacher, and it's early childhood, and it is like early intervention needs. We're seeing children coming to school for the first time often, and I was like, whoa, I am not prepared to teach this array of children with all these different abilities. And so I was like, I need to go back to school for special education. So I went back to school shortly after and kept teaching while I was doing that for special education, and I focused on learning disabilities and early childhood special ed. Then I got a job as a teacher for children with autism, 3 to 5 year olds. So it was
Mm,
a program for just children with autism. It was started out self-contained, and then I quickly realized like this needs to be inclusive. There's so many benefits to inclusion. Why aren't the children I'm serving being included with their general education peers? And so started with some push in, like I would bring children to a portable that had like a preschool classroom,
Oh,
and we would play together. And then it evolved to a full inclusive program the last few years I taught. And that got me thinking, like, there's so much more to learn, like lifelong learner. What can I go do? A professor that I had for my master's was like, why don't you look into getting your doctorate? I was like, okay, thinking about what I'm interested in, where I should go. I was in Michigan, wanted to stay in Michigan, looked at Michigan State. In Michigan, early childhood special ed is like separated. So special ed and early childhood are separated. There's not like a togetherness there. And so I chose Michigan State and knew that the special education department wasn't my home because they had nothing early childhood. And so then I looked at where early childhood was located, and that was in human development and family studies. And I found an advisor. My advisor, Sarah Douglas, was a special education teacher. It's like, okay, this could work. She focused on social communication. That's what I was thinking. I just read
yeah.
this cool paper about something called Naturalistic Developmental Behavioral Interventions. And I was like, that is what I want to study. So I'm like, bringing this paper, interviewing for programs, and they're like, but like, what do you want to study? Like, this is just like a name of something. And I'm like, but that's what I want to do. So that's how I kind of found them and evolved into like, okay, I know all about early childhood education, best practices. I learned more about child development through that program, but then I also wanted to take more classes in special education. And that's how Anna Duenas and I met. She was also a
Love
professor.
it.
She was a stock student in special education, and she was a BCBA. And so her and I got paired together because I was doing work at the lab school there with the general education, early childhood, like child development classrooms. And they had just started an EIBI program, like her advisor had.
Mhm.
Um, there that served children with autism, and they wanted it to be inclusive. And so they were like, you two figure out how to do this. And so that's kind of how we got together, and
I love it. I didn't know
and
that.
how I learned more about ABA, because that wasn't on my radar. I was the uh, educator who had the negative view of ABA practices, and was starting to be a little bit more open to it, but still like very critical of like, why would you do that? Why would you do this? That doesn't make sense to me. That doesn't align with, what I've learned. And the more that we worked together, the more I saw the value, and the more I knew I wanted to focus on NDBI. And I was like, well, I need to know more about the science of ABA then, if this is what I want to,
Yeah.
research and teach and be immersed in. And so I started taking the verified course sequence
Mhm.
there and became a BCBA. So my background was, education, early childhood, child development, and then ABA, and now I blend
Yeah,
them.
I love that. I love to hear how people get into this. I'm very much the opposite, came from ABA and morphed around into inclusive environmental education, little ones, and just moving into the naturalistic developmental kind of components of everything as opposed to the behavioral side. So I think it's interesting to have people align and kind of see the benefits of both. Like these are really two great fields that are coming together to really improve and impact these outcomes for children. And they really, it gets back into that kind of that interdisciplinary or that multidisciplinary approach, like kind of taking the village. It takes a village to raise children, right? It really takes a team, and everyone has strengths and knowledge that they pull in from their background that you wouldn't get unless you went and had professional schooling and teaching and training in all of those disciplines. But who has time for that, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's great to see how everyone can work together and come together and to identify some of those barriers. Again, if I'm coming into NDBIs and I'm super pro behavior, I might not value the developmental side as much, but
Right.
that's a problem because they all should be valued the same. Like there are important things that we pull from and they work so synergistically together. So thank you for sharing that. I didn't know that. I'm going to put that in the community membership. How did you get into NDBIs? Did you start
Yeah,
this way or this way? Because I'm very curious of how people are coming into NDBIs, what their kind of motivation is, or their desire, and what they hope to get out of this beautiful kind of field that we hang out in now. It didn't exist when I started out, and I wish it really would have, because I really think I would have been there from the get-go.
yeah. I mean, it existed. It just didn't have a name until 2015,
Yes.
right? This has been around for quite a while, back to milieu teaching. These practices have evolved and were, named
Yeah,
differently
McGee. Yeah,
by the people who developed them, because that is what we are reinforced with, right? You need to
correct.
develop something to be unique, to then publish on it, to then, that's your your tokens that you receive, and then, to keep your job. But like,
Publish or perish.
then, yeah, but so it was around, you just didn't we didn't know, like, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great clarification. And I wonder if that's something that, again, with the efforts of the SIG of trying to disseminate, like it is more visible now, maybe since the seminal article and professors kind of doing work under the NDBI umbrella,
Exactly.
but it's still that translational, how do we get that information out to people so that
Yeah,
they understand it? Like it's here, it's been here. Here's great directions that it can go.
yeah, so
With
that was the
dissemination.
whole,
Yeah.
like, catalyst for that paper was, let's bring all these under one name,
Yeah.
and we want to support um, funding for children to receive services under this name. So we wanted to be, this is what it is, and it's ABA based. And yeah, so that was the whole, yeah, catalyst. And then, like, we are just working from there. It's been almost 10 years and we're still trying to get the name out. So right, it was interesting to think about.
Yeah, that's a really great point. So for the members in the community that are in the States are aware of insurance funding for ABA programs. And then we have members in the community who are international, who don't have to deal with insurance funding requirements, whatnot. So one of the big issues that we encounter here in the States with funding is they'll fund ABA programs. But if we were to bring in a specific model or a NDBI, that doesn't want to be funded, right? There is pushback on that, even if it is an appropriate model for an 18-month, 2-year-old, 2.5, 3, they are just pushing back. It's not ABA. What, and I love the article. Yeah, like it really kind of is. It is just a naturalistic, developmentally influenced. And I think as we start to identify children at an earlier age, we have an issue that we need to resolve. Some
Mhm.
traditional EIBI programs are not appropriate for these young children. So I think that funders and payers need to have more information to them and about the research that we're doing and the effectiveness and, like you said, the misconceptions of NDBIs, and really kind of keep pushing, like it should be parent choice. This is what's in the best interest of my child. This is what I think would be the most effective version or type or form of treatment for them. And I think that we don't have that choice right now. It's this is what's funded and you get it. And you
Yes.
might get a provider who is an NDBI provider, or you might not, and that's all you get. So I
Mhm.
do think there's a lot of work there to be done in that arena.
Mhm.
I have no desire to do that work.
Yeah.
Disseminate here. Insurance payers, not fun to work with.
I know.
But
Yeah.
hopefully the dissemination efforts will bring more and more parents and consumers, just like with ABA, more and more parents were demanding this in legislature. So I think
Exactly
that,
exactly
yeah.
what I'm trying to do with my research. We just finished a study where we had some short video clips of NDBI strategies being implemented in preschool classrooms with a child with a social communication goal. And we showed it to parents, and we were asking, about the social validity of this and all these other questions, because yeah, we wanted to know. We wanted to
Uh-huh.
to know if they're acceptable or not, but also, like, would you recommend this? Do you like this? Hey, this is
Mhm.
actually ABA based. Like, what do you think? And so the findings from that really, like, cemented in the need for a dissemination because they're like, I don't know, I've never heard of that term. After we said, okay, and this is what it's called, and these
Uh-huh.
are what these strategies are called. I've never heard of this. I would love this. It feels like more like what I got in bursts of three, programming. But when my child went to EIBI programming, it looked different. I didn't get to see it as much, less connected, things like that. But still, they want what's best for their children, and they're seeing the impact of ABA because it is effective, right? So I'm not saying like that they thought it was EIBI traditional was bad or anything, but
Yeah.
yeah. So my point is dissemination is needed for all of these stakeholder and community groups, direct and indirect consumers of early intervention practices for autism. Like they need to know what this is.
Yeah. And I don't know if that's something, would that be something that through the NDBI special interest group, would there be specialty groups or stakeholder groups? I'm trying to think of what the name would be to focus on these people volunteer and support the initiative to work with the funders. This
Mm.
team works together to support something over here.
Yeah.
There's a name for that, and I can't think of what it would be.
Really could evolve to that once we get more people. Yeah. And right now we're just like, okay, the more people we get to know what it is and learn about it, right? Which is the
Yeah,
focus of our SIG right now, then hopefully we can expand more to like,
the
okay,
data.
now how can we target this and why do we want to? And
Mhm.
um,
Yeah, I think that's great. And then I always think like how to educate people and think about, we talked a lot about barriers to getting access to NDBIs and learning about them and the efforts that you have done with research is just phenomenal. And with the SIG, like volunteering your time to kind of put that out there, it's always so much to be done. So I
yeah.
think it's great. Do you guys ever have opportunities at the SIG for people to volunteer if they were like, wow, this is great. I want to help with that. Do they just reach out to you?
Yeah, that would probably be the best way right now is
Okay.
reach out to me if they want to, and yeah, help us kind of move forward. Like, okay, now there's somebody who can do this. That's awesome.
Right.
There's
Delegate it
a very
out. Yes.
small group of people right now trying to do some big things. So
Yeah, I think that a task force, is that what I'm looking, there's a task
yeah,
force for
that's a good
this.
name. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah, I'll make sure to put a link for the website if they want to join the mailing list, or maybe on the website we can have a Google form. Hey, if you want to volunteer to help us, we have social media that we're trying to push. We have summarizing data. We have spearheading with insurance funders, getting data to talk to them to make presentations. It'd be great to have a Google form people could fill out and say how they might like to help volunteer. If
Yes, that
Yeah,
sounds
I'm going to put that on my website for Amy as well.
awesome.
Yeah, and maybe we're not there yet to organize those committees or task force, but if there were people that represented those bodies that want to help, that would definitely
Mhm.
get us in the right direction. So
Mhm.
that would be really good. Volunteer form. Yay. Is there anything else that you want to share with us about NDBIs other than how amazing they are?
Right. Yeah, check out our website for resources. And then you are organizing this amazing conference that I would encourage everyone who's at all interested in NDBI to look for more information about coming soon.
Hmm.
And then the conference will be in October. It's
Yeah.
NDBI online focus. So all the people who are that we've contacted who are interested in presenting about NDBI are going to, and so that's
Oh,
really exciting.
I know. I think that's the most exciting thing is there were very few no's, and if it was a no, it was a conflicting interest. I think there is a great need to have a conference. So October 3rd and 4th, Thursday, Friday, is the online first ever NDBI Connections Conference, where we have all of the big wig name researchers in the field coming in to talk. And I see it as a really great opportunity to get some data and insights into who's interested in NDBIs and ABA, and where are they coming from, and how can we build those bridges and make those connections and really start to get more and more dissemination but also facilitate those relationships and connections with, oh, you're tied into this source, you're tied into that payer. Let's start working together and collaborate on how we can really move the needle forward to getting this model more widely accepted, widely funded, not misunderstood. So,
Right.
yeah, that's gonna be a powerhouse, fire conference, and more information should come out in the next month or so. So I'll make sure to share that with our members, and we can put that on the SIG website.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm excited about that very much, and you will be presenting with Anna, so that will be fun to hear you ladies present together, especially now that we know your backstory, how you got together.
Yep. Yes.
I
Very
love
serendipitous and definitely meant to be.
Yes, I love it. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been so wonderful. I know the members are gonna get a lot out of this and really enjoy it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for having me, and thanks for all you do
You're
for NDBI
welcome.
dissemination.
Thank you so much.